The president talking about the malpractice issue, Congressman McCotter, did Republicans, it got a rise out of Republicans. How do you weigh that in terms of the president's willingness to listen and to respond?
Well, first it was interesting because it was like watching him have a molar removed, spitting out the phrase tort reform. And I don't know that evidence is a real commitment or the passion that we heard talked about for that specific issue. In fact, I would agree, I think it was Mr. Brooks, what he did is he set up a straw man on the left, a straw man on the right, and pretended to be a centrist. The reality is, if you're going to come out, and you're going to come out, and you talked about LBJ, I mean, old school Joseph Califano, God love you. LBJ, as a former legislator, would come in and he would sit you down from whatever room in his place he was hiding, and he would say, I want X, Y, and Z in this bill. And he'd find a way to make that happen. Tonight, as I said earlier, the public option, we're still discussing whether or not he thinks that's essential. And that's the key element in the internal Democratic debate that has to happen.
Well, I'm not sure we're discussing that. I mean, I think David Brooks clearly said that, and Al Hunt both said that the public option tonight, the president made clear it's not essential.
Well, you're going to have, I think, over 100 progressives and other Democrats that have said that the public option is critical to their vote. And look, I'll be fair about
it in the House, and then it goes to Congress, to conference, and
then it gets taken out. It becomes problematic. We used to do this, Charlie. Charlie, we used to do this. We're a minority because of it. We would start a bill on the far right and try to move it to the center, counting our own noses, while the public and the Democrats held their noses. Eventually, that doesn't work. An old chairman once told me, if you want to get something big done, you start in the middle and work out both ways. And I would hope that they would come back, reset the button, and start to seriously work with us, because I do think it's possible to get something constructive done.
So you think he should start all over?
No, I think that he should come and look at where we're at, where he's at, where his caucus is at. Because, again, while there have been bills that have been put out of committee, the only bipartisan votes so far in this legislation have been against it.
I'm leading to this point from you. Is this the time for health care reform?
Well, I think it's always time when you have issues such as $600 billion in waste and fraud in Medicare and Medicaid to go fix it. I think that people want targeted specific
reforms. But is that the issue, whether you've got fraud in Medicare or the fact that we have too many cases of too many people?
No, my point is that there are existing reforms that can be targeted specifically to try to be helpful in the system rather than a big, large overhaul of this. Remember, we were told by Bill Clinton the era of big government is over, and now we're finding out that that's no longer the case. Charlie, ultimately, when you ask the larger question why Americans are having trouble with this package and why they don't like it, is we are not going through an ordinary time. This is a time when we are continuing to move from an industrialized society to a globalized world, to a globalized marketplace. That entails the same types of social, economic, and political turmoil that we saw as we went through the industrial era. What Americans are tired of is chaotic shocks to the system. And when we talk about reverting back to character in a time of crisis, the American Republic was founded not just on limited government, but what undergirded that was self-government, a sense of continuity between the generations, Burke's eternal contract of society, and what they cannot stand is government making a chaotic time worse. So they want us to do targeted reforms, make things better, but not to do anything that's going to be too large or help to reduce their control over their own lives. And that's really what's undergirding the debate of this.
But I think the president was arguing tonight that you are going to still have control over your health care. If you like your own health care, you can continue with your own health care. And secondly, he seemed to be saying that the reason there's opposition to this is because there's confusion about this, not that there's some dramatic difference on principle. That's the argument.
This argument is demonstrably, I would argue, errant, because when he talks about the fact that you'll keep whatever you have because the bill doesn't force you into a public system, the reality is they're going to encourage it because it's going to be cheaper and easier for businesses. It's going to exacerbate businesses forcing you into a public system. When you look at many of the cost savings, I mean, even Mr. Brooks talked about, the cost savings that this bill will be revenue neutral or he won't sign it, well, we heard that with the omnibus bill, and it had a whole bunch of earmarks he promised not to sign. Americans right now want calm governance, less campaigning. They want reasoned approaches, rational, targeted approaches, because they want the turbulence that they're experiencing to be calmed by their subservient members of Congress that are supposed to use representative
the president tonight or not? Was that the tone of the president tonight?
Charlie,
Calm, reason, or not?
There were different tones. I mean, we heard that the president was passionate tonight, and yet people who passionately oppose this are a new angry mob. So one man's reasoned, passionate person is another man's angry mob.
In what way has the president surprised you? Do you agree with that, Congressman?
I think he's drifted to the center of the Democratic Party. Remember, he was elected by the left wing because Hillary Clinton wasn't liberal enough. So I think he's trying to find his way. In the end, it's going to be passed by Congress or not, but it's going to have to be practical. The American people are very practical, and they're either going to like it or not, regardless of what I say or anyone else says. They'll measure their own health care needs, they'll look at the bill, and they'll say yes or no, and we will hear about it.